Hi everybody and welcome back to the Upside Dan. After 2 years, we finally have another MCU film in theaters. And I was so excited for this when the opening, title card, MCU, the Marvel card, with the music started playing, it just filled me with so much happiness. Did the movie do the same? Today we're talking about Black Widow. This is a spoiler-free review, everyone, so don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything about Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff confronts the darker past of her ledger when a dangerous conspiracy with ties to her past arises. Pursued by a force that will stop at nothing to bring her down, Natasha must deal with her history as a spy and the broken relationship left in her wake long before she became an Avenger. This film was directed by Cate Shortland and written by Pearson. It stars Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, Winstone, and O.T. Fagbenle. So as I said, I was so excited to finally see an MCU film on the big screen. We haven't since Far From Home 2 years ago. So it was just so exciting, and that new trailer that came out a few weeks back got me so hyped for this movie again. I lost hype. All the delays and all the different promotional pictures and posters and clips that they released were just like not doing it until that new trailer. I was so excited for this movie, and I think that it opened up great. I loved the opening scene, right before we even get the title card. It's a great opening to an MCU film. It was, you get to see some flashbacks of Natasha with her family, as a child. It was really interesting to me. I always had an interest in Natasha's backstory. I do think that we should have gotten a Black Widow origin movie, or at least a Black Widow solo movie, way back when. Like Phase 1, Phase 2 is when we really should have gotten this. Or maybe even, if it's going to be this story, do it after Civil War, because it's set between Civil War and Infinity War. Or maybe an origin story back in Phase 1 and 2, and then this would be, the sequel, what happens in between Civil War and Infinity War. I don't want to make that a flaw of the film itself. It was there. I did think about it before watching it, while watching it, and now. But what did I think of this movie? So like I said, the opening was great. I really liked the opening credits as well, with a, kind of a dreary song playing, and you kind of see flashbacks throughout, Natasha's life in the Red Room and everything. This movie seems a bit darker. It focuses on darker stuff. The Red Room in general is just a darker topic, a darker story in the Marvel, comics. I will say I do wish we learned more about the Red Room and what was going on there when, Natasha was there. I think that they did what they could with this movie. We learned a lot about her backstory. We learned a lot about what happened to her in between Civil War and Infinity War, and that was nice. I gotta get to these characters. I think Florence Pugh as her sister, Yelena, just steals the show here. I think she is fantastic, which is no surprise because Florence Pugh has really blown up and she deserves it. She's a really, really talented actress. I absolutely loved seeing her here. I want to see her and everything now. She's funny. She's really funny. She's just great at acting. But she has a lot of the funny lines. Her and David Harbour, from Stranger Things, he plays Hopper. He's really funny here as well as Red Guardian, their father. I really enjoyed these two characters, and of course, Scarlett Johansson always does an amazing job as this character and beyond in other films as well. She's great as Black Widow. But I still gotta say, I was more into Florence Pugh and her character, Yelena. There's just so much comedy here, and that's a big positive for me. I thought pretty much all of the comedy worked. There was a couple, that felt kind of flat, or I was like, okay, they were trying something there and it didn't totally work, but that was few and far in between, whatever that saying is. It mostly landed. Speaking of landed, one of the funniest running jokes, I think, is about Black Widow's superhero landing. You'll know what I mean. It's really funny. I loved that banter, between the sisters about it. That was one of my favorite comedic moments. Yeah, the comedy really worked. Like I said, I liked the story for the most part. I wish they did more with it. I wish they did more with the villains as well. Like Taskmaster didn't get much. There were some great scenes with Taskmaster, but I don't know. I wish that, and I know MCU has, issues sometimes with their villains, unless they're like big villains like Thanos, or an anti-hero like Loki, or I mean, I really like Zemo. I really like Hela. Taskmaster and Dreykov just felt like they were not fleshed out enough, and I wish that they were more, because the Red Room, like I said, and the Leader it's an interesting story. It can be really, groundbreaking and, gravitating the audience towards this story, towards this movie. But I don't think that they totally hit that out of the park, story-wise. They could have done a lot more with the Red Room and stuff. And Dreykov and Taskmaster. Some of the action scenes, I thought they were really good. I don't think that they really brought anything that new. It looked good, the CGI was pretty good. It intrigued me, don't get me wrong. I liked a lot of the action. I just don't think it was, anything too special. But I did really like, the use of more hand-on-hand combat. Now, some of the negatives are, I'm gonna compare this to F9. I'm sorry, but Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, Yelena, they're just humans. They're human beings still. Yes, they're really great assassins. They're great spies. They're great at all of this stuff, but they don't have the super serum. They're not extra strong. They're not extra fast. They're human beings. And the stuff that they were surviving, or not even just surviving, being totally okay, and totally okay to get right into combat right after, was just mind-boggling to me, especially Natasha. I'm not gonna get into spoilers, but she would survive really inane, really bombastic things in this movie. I know it's a superhero movie, I know it's an MCU movie, it just seemed really unrealistic for this character. Like I said, she's a human. She's a human being, and we haven't really seen her do anything this big in any of the other MCU movies, and Infinity War and Endgame come after this. And we still haven't seen her do any of that. She's still a human. She's a human being. She cannot, let alone survive this, but also be okay to get right into combat right after. That's kind of what reminded me of F9 is, the family becomes, superheroes, basically, in F9. And yes, this is a superhero movie technically, but she's still a human being. So there was a lot of that unrealistic action stuff and surviving stuff and being okay to fight right after, being okay to walk even right after. And I'll get more into some of this in a spoiler review if I decide to do one, which I probably will. Speaking of family, let me get back into the family. I really liked this family dynamic here. When these four characters, David Harbour and Rachel Weisz as the parents, and of course, Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh as their daughters. It really was a great dynamic. It was funny. It was heartfelt at times. It got emotional. I especially liked a lot of Florence Pugh's stuff. It felt real. It got me more into these characters in this story. So a lot of aspects to like, some to be about. For the most part, worth the wait. What I was expecting basically for this movie. I wasn't expecting some big Marvel spectacle that changed the course of the universe, because this is basically a prequel that happened between Civil War and Infinity War. We know what happens to Natasha in Endgame. So there wasn't much at stake there. I did get some suspense in some scenes. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Oh, I hope they make this. I hope they do that. I did get some of that, but Natasha is going to survive, because of what happens in Infinity War and Endgame. What would I give Black Widow? Black Widow gets an 8 out of 10 from me. That's an 8 out of 10. For Marvel Studios' Black Widow. What did you think of this movie? Please comment down below. Let me know what you thought of Black Widow. Was it worth the wait? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Where does it rank on your MCU list? Please let me know down in that comment section. If you've liked what you've seen here and you want to see some more, please click somewhere else to see something else. Please like this video. Comment on this video. Share this video with the Marvel fans in your life. Hit that notification bell. Subscribe and come to the Upside Dan.